We think we're pretty good at engineering, right? We build these massive things, jet engines, supercomputers, skyscrapers. But what if I told you that the most efficient, most sophisticated motor on the entire planet isn't something we built at all? In fact, it's inside you, right now. Trillions and trillions of them just humming along, powering your every move, every single thought. These microscopic powerhouses are what make your very existence possible. So what is this incredible machine? Say hello to ATP synthase. Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful, but get this. It is a true, real-deal molecular motor. This tiny machine spins faster than a jet engine's turbine, and its one and only job is to create the fuel that powers literally everything your body does. So, we've got this incredible little motor, but before we can really dig into how it works, we have to understand the fuel it produces. Now, I'm not talking about the food you eat. This is something way more fundamental. We're talking about the universal energy currency that every single one of your cells needs just to stay alive. And that currency is a molecule called ATP. The easiest way to think of it is like a tiny rechargeable battery for the cell. Every time your heart beats, a neuron fires in your brain, or a muscle flexes, it's spending ATP. Without a constant, nonstop supply of it, life just stops. Instantly. So, how do our cells keep these little batteries charged? Well, they've got two main ways of making ATP. But as we're about to see, one of these methods is the absolute, undisputed champion, powering pretty much the whole show. Okay, so method one is a pretty simple direct handoff. It's called substrate-level phosphorylation. Just picture one molecule literally handing a piece of energy to another. It's quick, but it's not super productive. Then there's method two, oxidative phosphorylation. Now this is the big leagues. It's like a massive, complex factory assembly line, and it's this industrial scale process where our little motor truly shines. And when I say it shines, I am not kidding. Just look at this, over 84%. The vast, vast majority of all the ATP your body produces comes from this one process. This one process, with the ATP synthase motor at its very heart, is basically the main power grid for almost all life on Earth. So if ATP synthase is a motor, it's got to have a power source, right? It's not running on gasoline or electricity from an outlet. No, the energy comes from a force generated by something that sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie, an electron waterfall. Okay, so what does that really mean? Well, the direct power source is a massive, controlled flood of protons. The cell works really hard to pump protons to one side of a membrane, building up this immense pressure, kind of like water behind a giant dam. And when they're finally allowed to rush back through, they create a powerful electrochemical force. It's this rushing force that physically turns the motor. But wait a second, you might be asking, where does the energy to pump all those protons come from in the first place? Well, that's where your food comes in. The energy is carried by high-energy electrons from the food you eat. And these electrons get passed down a series of protein complexes, just like water cascading over a series of dams. And at each dam, like this one here called complex I, the energy from those falling electrons is used to do one thing: pump protons across the membrane. This builds up that huge concentration on one side, a massive reservoir of potential energy, just waiting to be unleashed. All right, so the power source is charged up. The dam is full. Now it is time to finally meet the machine itself, this incredible piece of natural engineering. At its core, ATP synthase is made of two main parts. The first part, called the F0 component, is actually embedded in the membrane. That's the part that spins, the rotor. The second part, the F1 component, kind of juts out. This is the stationary head where all the chemical magic happens and the ATP is actually made. Let's look a little closer at those parts. That spinning rotor is made of something called the C-ring, and it's connected to a central drive shaft, which is known as the gamma stalk. This drive shaft then rotates inside the F1 head, the part that does the actual chemical work. It's a perfect motor and generator setup, just on a scale that's almost impossible to imagine. Okay, so we have the power source, that flood of protons, and we have the machine. Now for the main event. How does simple mechanical spinning get turned into chemical energy? The process is called the binding change mechanism, and honestly, it's brilliant. First, protons rush through that F0 rotor, which forces it to spin. That spin turns the gamma stalk, our drive shaft. Now, as that stalk turns inside the F1 head, its irregular, lumpy shape pushes against three catalytic sites, forcing them to physically change their structure. And that physical change is what literally squeezes molecules of ADP and phosphate together to form ATP. And here's the genius of the design. Each of those three catalytic sites cycles through three distinct shapes. First, it goes into the loose state, which grabs the raw ingredients. As the stalk rotates, it forces that site into the tight state, which physically squeezes the molecules together to make the ATP. One final turn, and it shifts to the open state, which releases the finished ATP molecules so the whole cycle can begin all over again. Loose, tight, open. It's that simple and that brilliant. Now, you really need to brace yourself for these numbers. They're kind of hard to wrap your head around. How fast does this molecular motor spin? Well, at full throttle, it can rotate up to 134 times every single second. And that incredible speed translates directly into staggering production. With each full rotation producing 3 molecules of ATP, a single one of these motors can churn out over 400 molecules of fuel every second. But speed and output are nothing without efficiency. And this might be the most staggering number of all. The energy conversion from that proton flow to the chemical bonds of ATP is nearly 100% efficient. A high-performance car engine is lucky to hit 40% efficiency. This machine wastes almost nothing. It is, for all intents and purposes, perfect. So it's an amazing piece of natural machinery. But let's zoom out. What's the bigger picture here? Why does understanding this one microscopic motor have such huge implications for us? Well, as the scientists who dedicate their lives to studying it conclude, it is truly one of nature's most remarkable machines. Its function is absolutely central to our health, our technology, and our very understanding of life itself. I mean, on a practical level, when this tiny motor breaks because of genetic mutations, the results are devastating, leading to severe neurological and metabolic diseases. On the technology front, scientists are studying it to inspire a whole new generation of synthetic nanomachines. But maybe most of all, it's just this incredible testament to the power of evolution, a near-perfect energy converter, honed over billions of years. Which leaves us with one final fascinating thought. Nature built the perfect nanomotor, a machine that powers life itself. As we continue to unlock its secrets, the question is no longer if we can build our own, but what will happen when we finally do?